Everyone Enrique teaches at Juilliard deep down is either a pyromaniac or a control freak.
Are you a pyromaniac or a control freak, Tim?
I'm Mr. Play It Safe. I can't risk it on this thing, so I'm a control freak.
I'm a pyromaniac. You know, I need structure. That's the story of my life.
And everyone we teach falls into more or less one of these two categories.
And let's talk about it. When it comes to improvisation, I think there's a spectrum. And I like to say improvisation is the science of choice. Is actually the exercise of making choices and understanding how to make choices. It's also a negotiation between risk and control. You cannot escape this truth. You know, you need to have a lot of risk in improvisation in order to sound exciting, and you need to have a lot of control in your improvisation in order to have a sense of structure and to have a cohesive storytelling.
Tell us about the control freak.
So the control freak is someone who wants to hear in your inner ear exactly what you're about to play, and then you play exactly what you have under your ears. And because of that, the type of thinking is way more rigid. There's a sense of organization, there's a commitment to pulse, there's a commitment to understanding every note you play. Everything must make sense in terms of harmony, for example. Every note must be correct. You have to play rhythms that are on the grid. Everything has to make sense. Okay?
The pyromaniac.
The pyromaniac is someone who doesn't give a
about anything. They just want to burn it all down.
It's just someone who has a lot of inspiration and a lot of this feeling of like, I'm just gonna go for it and I'm feeling it. Yeah! And you know, the problem is that when you're too extreme on this direction, you start to lack structure. You know, it's way too chaotic. And so chaotic that you start to lose sense of where the beat is, you start to lose a sense of where your chord is moving towards. So there are lots of issues with that too. Ideally, we all want to be in the middle. If you are a pyromaniac like myself, we're going to study structure. And if you are a control freak, we're going to work on exercises that are going to just obliterate your brain. And you're just going to be doing things a little more intuitively.
By the end of this video, no matter which of these camps you fall into, we're going to give you some things to think about as an improviser. First, we should talk about why should you want to be an improviser? And I firmly believe every musician should be an improviser in some form or fashion. And I think a lot of times we think jazz musicians are improvisers, nobody else.
And improvisation was very common in the classical music world until the 1850s. You know, every single composer, for example, that we study, the great composer from Bach to Mozart to Beethoven, for example, they all studied this art here called partimento, okay? Which was a way to harmonize bass lines. You basically learn different bass lines and you had to learn how to harmonize the specific bass movements. And then you had to create your own figurations, meaning your own types of accompaniments. And then you had to kind of write little melodies or improvise melodies over it or fugues or counterpoint over it. Anyways, it was something that like everybody did until the 1850s when it became so complex. Concert halls became really big. No more house concerts the same way, you know, and then music became way too complicated to be just improvised.
Whether you are playing in a rock band with your friends, whether you're writing music on your computer, no matter how you make music and experience music, it is a vital skill because it is at the heart of creative composition. It's at the heart of keeping jobs. If you're a player, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a gig, I get lost in the music, and my ability to improvise keeps a level head, and I'm able to catch right back up, and maybe I play some notes that are within the field of what's happening. But being an improviser has saved my butt on a gig.
And even if you are a performer of classical music, once you understand the science of choice and you study how choices are made and you're practicing the act of making choices, you start to recognize those choices in the repertoire that you play. So then next time you're going to play a sonata, a written piece of music, you're going to choose, you're going to play differently because you're going to recognize the genius of the composer in specific moments. You may even disagree with certain moments, like, oh, I would have gone in a different direction here. And that makes your choices as an interpreter way more informed. So it allows you to play with more naturalness. It allows you also to hear, if you're playing chamber music with other people, it allows you to hear them better and know how to place yourself. So it's, I mean, the benefits are just incalculable. It's just fantastic. I think one common misconception that we have is that when we talk about improvisation, we immediately mean jazz. And we forget that improvisation is about language. And musical languages exist everywhere. You know, the reason why we normally associate improvisation with jazz, because jazz, first, jazz is pretty awesome. Second, jazz is the most well-documented methodology of improvisation. You have a billion courses, you have degrees, you have books, you have tutorials.
You have a musical industrial complex that's been built since the 60s to indoctrinate a nation with jazz in the schools, of which I'm a product.
But there are other musical languages, so sometimes what I like to tell my students is that you can take material, the material that you already play, the languages that you already command, and transform them into language for your improvisation. But for all of those, you need to have methodology. You need to dissect a language, you need to analyze a language, divide and understand what are the building blocks of those compositions, and then you start to recreate them. First by imitation, then by variation, and then by composition, which is kind of the ultimate stage.
And if you know what type of improviser you are, give us a subscribe. Now, Henrique, we need to help these pyromaniacs and these control freaks. Let's give them some concrete advice so they can start improvising. Let's start with our control freaks.
So if you're a control freak, the challenge is to help you think outside of your own brain a little bit and have your fingers play a little more naturally. Basically playing in the dark, kind of hitting a piñata. You don't know where you're going. That's a little bit of the goal. One exercise that I love doing is using Steve Reich's piano phase as a model. But it's very simple. The right hand plays just 3 notes, and the left hand alternate 2 notes. So because of this weird arrangement, it's like your fingers are playing Twister, you know?
Yeah.
It's very hard for your brain to analyze what's happening. And I suggest that you do an ostinato like this, but you start changing notes, 1 note at a time. I'm gonna change a note. Now a different note.
Highly effective for your Juilliard pianists who are playing maybe the hardest rep ever written in the history of composition. How can we translate this for other musicians?
This is a simple exercise that you can do even with 3 notes. Pick any 3 notes.
Okay.
Arrange them into a chord.
Okay.
I don't know, take a D minor for example. You
Okay.
can try that. D minor, but play as an open chord.
Okay.
Now choose one of those notes and change without, no, don't think. Just choose one of those notes, raise up or down half a step. It helps you to step out of that comfort zone because you cannot rely on traditional harmonies, on traditional kind of approaches.
It needs to be a controlled risk for our control freak, because our control freaks are a little bit afraid to step outside their comfort zone, myself included. So what about pyromaniacs like yourself?
What we need is simplicity of form. Analyze Bach's preludes from the well-tempered clavier. Analyze the harmony, really do a harmonic analysis. And then you'll notice that in probably half of his preludes, he starts with the exact same chord progression. Something that goes like this. Okay? And once you understand that, you can transform those 4 chords into a larger building block that you use in your improvisation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number 1. So you can practice specific improvisation, doing, for example, variations over this opening statement. So you're operating with form. You can also talk about the Folia. It's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
The Folia is a form of like 16 bars that were very common in the Baroque period, and until now, even Britney Spears has a Folia. Oops, I did it again. It's a Folia.
Yeah.
Same harmony. It goes like this. a few pieces that you're very comfortable with, analyze the harmony, understand what's happening to the harmony, change the melody, but keep the harmony. Pyromaniacs they love changing. I want to do something else. I want to add another chord. I want to reharmonize immediately. Do not, put on a metronome so that you stick to a pulse and try to use forms that already exist. So instead of just coming up with ideas out of nothing, you're working with larger building blocks. This normally adds more structure. And then remember that your best friend is silence. Silence is like the most poetic and structural elements in music. So normally Pyromaniacs need quite a dose of silence in their improvisation too.
Put in the comments, let us know, are you a pyromaniac? Are you a control freak? And if you'd like more of our videos on improvisation, we've got them linked right here.
Some of these is going to be on a PDF available for download, so just click down in the comments.